for joining us on the I Love CVille Show. I'm going to send a quick text message right now on a topic that is on the show. May I quote you on this on the show? Question mark. A lot we're going to cover on the program as we're working content for this show literally in real time while talking into this microphone to you. I see word bubbles here. A lot I want to cover on the program, including just a terribly unfortunate situation. Dawn Morris, who is the owner of Higher Education, one of her locations is what, on West Main Street here? It's a head shop, right? I mean, it's the old school version of a head shop, right? I mean, what's the 2025 version or moniker or brand of a head shop? What is a head shop called in 2025? Is it still called a head shop? She got sentenced to 22 years in the slammer. She has to do 15 months. All of the 22 years were suspended except for 15 months. She also forfeited nearly $150,000 of revenue she said was generated from her higher education head shop business and not the open air drug market that she got in trouble for in a storage shed complex in Louisa County. Yeah. These open air drug markets, and open air drug market is an obscene description for these things. The open air drug market moniker is a moniker and description of yesteryear that is trumped up and hyperbolized and exaggerated by authorities to try to justify their pursuit of aggressive, sentencing, requests and years of time behind bars. I'll just be very straightforward with my commentary here. These pop-ups, these weed farmers markets, literally are taking place everywhere in Charlottesville, everywhere in Albemarle County, and everywhere in Central Virginia. I am not going to dox any of these locations because it ain't my place to do it. And I'm also a guy who is very pro-green, very pro-liberties, and very pro-freedom, and incredibly understanding that we have this marketplace operating in a gray area thanks to the political dysfunction that is going on in Richmond right now. Okay? And because of the political dysfunction or lack of legal clarity that is originating by our legislators in Richmond right now, our governor is a part of the problem. You have a marketplace, a gray area marketplace, where average Joes and average Sallys, your neighbors, your family and your friends, are growing weed, smoking weed, selling weed, trading weed. Literally, that's what's happening right now. And we have an individual in Louisa County, Dawn Morris, who's a successful businesswoman who's got 3 locations with her business, her brand, Higher Education, including the one we know of on West Main Street, that is now going to serve some time behind bars. She had a very talented attorney, friend of the program, Elliot Harding, who was able to get that sentencing reduced significantly, 15 months behind bars. He's texting me now. He says she'll only serve 9.5 months or so due to Virginia good time credits for nonviolent offenders, and she also did over 800 hours of community service. He's got some other commentary that I want to relay to you. Elliot, pass it along via this text feed here. I'm happy to pass it on live on air on the talk show here. I want to talk about this today. I also want to talk on today's program the vacancy rate for multifamily housing. I think we have some data, Judah. Do we have that data from Virginia Realtors we can put on screen?
Yeah.
We have a vacancy rate, according to Virginia Realtors, in the Charlottesville MSA, the greater Charlottesville metro area, of 7.5%. That vacancy rate, ladies and gentlemen, with multifamily, is a vacancy rate that is more significant Deep Throat, I appreciate you passing this on to us, that is more significant, a higher vacancy rate in the Charlottesville area than Harrisonburg has, a higher vacancy rate than Winchester, than Blacksburg, than the Hampton Roads area, and portions of Northern Virginia. You have the activist community in Charlottesville, livable Charlottesville, and the Gillikin gang that are screaming, build, 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 build. And the data from the Virginia Realtors Association, Virginia Association of Realtors, is screaming otherwise, saying we have a potential glut of multifamily housing with the 7.5% vacancy rate, higher than Harrisonburg, Winchester, Blacksburg, and Richmond. I see supervisors and city councilors watching this program right now. I am going to put data on screen from the Virginia Association of Realtors that if you are not considering, you are doing a disservice to the communities that you serve. I'm talking to the city councilors and the supervisors that are watching the program right now. You know who you are. You're being influenced by a vocalized, organized, and strategized minority population. And I'm talking size and number here, not skin tone, or not wealth or socioeconomic status. I'm talking a small population of people are bullying you and skewing your judgment when it comes to housing in our community. And it's time you really take a look at what the data is all about. I want to talk on today's program, Walgreens. Walgreens has one L in it, J-Dubs, not two. We need to make that edit on the headlines, please. Right. Walgreens on Route 29 and Proffit Road is closing. It is closing. And the collapse and demise of big box retail continues in the Charlottesville area. You're going to have a number of Class A positions, retail, that are going to be sitting vacant for an extended period of time, ladies and gentlemen, as the collateral damage of COVID continues to rear its ugly head. A lot we're going to cover on the program. Judah Wickhauer, let's go on a studio camera first so people can see the set. Then let's welcome you on a two-shot. And I ask you the same question. Which headline most intrigues you and why?
I mean, the whole discussion about the sentencing, and it goes hand in hand with the fact that laws are changing. A cannabis sales bill has recently cleared Virginia legislation, which will likely get vetoed by Youngkin.
Why is Youngkin doing this?
I don't know.
Youngkin is a capitalist, a free market guy. What, the former CEO of the Carlyle Group? Is that right, ladies and gentlemen? One of the most significant in the financial field. Am I remembering that correct? And yet he's taken weed as if it's like hardcore narcotics.
Yeah.
And it's creating this gray area where people are choosing to live and dance and operate within that is creating exposure points for some. Now, Dawn Morris has taken it to a different level by operating in Louisa County what the authorities have said is an open-air drug market. I am one who, on this program, often backs the blue. I'd say 95% of the time back the blue. And try to be open-minded to a lot of stuff. But to call what she was doing an open-air drug market, I think is a misrepresentation of what was happening. Rusty McGuire, the Commonwealth's attorney in Louisa County. What she got in trouble for was the boomers, was the Shrooms. Right? If she's just pushing some weed and some cannabis and some indicas and some sativas and some vape pens and some gummies and some weed butter and some good old-fashioned Jerome Baker 18-foot tubes with fantastic design sidecars associated with the chalky tubes, she wouldn't have gotten in trouble. She was warned. The Commonwealth's attorney in Louisa, Rusty McGuire, and the Louisa County Police had warned her in 2022
Yeah.
She chose to continue with being an entrepreneur in the gray area. The boomers, the mushrooms got her in trouble. But geez Louise, hell's bells here. We have people that are committing violent crime that are facing much less stringent sentencing standards, impositions, thresholds than what Dawn faced initially. Initially, what was it?
Like 160 some odd years.
Like 2 lifetimes.
They got rid of, I believe they got rid of, it's either 4 or 5 of 9 charges during the case. They were given a, null prosequi, which means that they just didn't want to prosecute. They dropped the charges, but the boomers, as Jerry for some reason likes to call them.
That's what they're called. They're called boomers.
Okay.
You ever taken mushrooms in your life?
It's been quite a while.
So is that a yes? You don't have to. You don't have to incriminate. I mean, who cares if you say yes?
I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, a very long time.
They're called boomers.
Okay. Well.
Shrooms, boomers, mushrooms.
Okay.
Caps and stems.
I know that.
I mean,
I've just never heard them called boomers.
Grows on cow poo. It's from the earth.
And you often come up with words that I've never heard anyone use.
Every word that I've ever used is not words that I've made up from scratch.
So you say.
Speaking from personal experience.
About what you talk about?
100%. Speaking from personal experience, without question. 100%. Now, obviously, times have changed for yours truly. As best thing that ever happened to me is my wife. 100%. I had this conversation with some friends on the double squash court. Obviously, whoever you marry is one of the most important decisions. If it's the most important decision of your life, who you choose to marry.
Oh, I think we're getting off topic.
No, this is very much on topic.
Okay.
Qualities that you look for in a better half: someone who has a complementary, someone who loves you, someone who has a complementary skill set to you, personality to you, someone that you trust, someone that will do anything for the family, for you and your family. Look at the relationship her parents had, his parents had, because that's in a lot of ways a guideline or a model of what your future partner's expectations for a marriage are. But I made this comment in the most straight-face fashion. Marry someone you're slightly scared of. Marry someone you are slightly scared of that will hold you accountable every day. 10 years for us of being together this summer. From where I was 10 years ago to where I am now, completely different. Extracurricular activities and things I like to do, completely different. For the betterment. I mean, do I wax nostalgic of some of the things that I like to do? Of course. That I used to do, of course. But I got a lot more to lose now. So 100% speaking from personal experience. And if Dawn Morris in a storage set in Louisa County is not pushing boomers, she's not in this kind of trouble. There's open, and I'm going to call them weed farmers markets. I think that's a better description for the Commonwealth's attorneys of various jurisdictions in Central Virginia and across Virginia as a whole. There's pop-up weed farmers markets going on everywhere. Some within a hop, skip, and a jump of police stations. And I'll leave it at that. Literally within a hop, skip, and a jump of police stations. And this particular weed farmers market got in the crossfire of authorities to the tune of something we have not really seen locally. In fact, in this article from the Central Virginian, and you should be rotating the first 3 lower thirds on screen.
All right.
And according to this article, the Commonwealth's attorney of Louisa County in some ways brags on the record in the courtroom that we've never hauled in this type of drug haul before in Louisa's history.
Yeah.
They say this is the greatest drug haul in Louisa County. Geez Louise, you think that they would be talking about Pablo Escobar, bricks of yayo, Pablo Escobar, bricks of snow and cocaine and fentanyl. We're talking about weed and mushrooms. And for the parents that are watching this program that are more conservative in their approach to marijuana and to psychedelic mushrooms, and if they have kids listening to this, we're speaking in just everyday vernacular on today's talk show, okay? Everyday vernacular. Marijuana is something that undoubtedly should be legalized at this point. People are walking in front of the police station in downtown Charlottesville smoking blunts. They are walking down the mall smoking joints. The smell of weed in downtown Charlottesville is not just an everyday thing, it is the normal. It is the absolute normal. And nothing is being done about it. And there's weed farmers markets that are existing all over in Central Virginia where they're posting on social media, on Facebook, on when and time, place, and location of where you can go.
How many of those do you think are selling mushrooms?
I've seen a handful of them that had boomers for sale, amongst other things. Now, I would bet you they're reeling that in significantly. At these weed farmers markets, ladies and gentlemen, you see, this is not the reefer madness of yesteryear. It's not college students and tattooed individuals with neck tattoos and the tear on their face tattooed, signifying how many people they've put 6 feet under the ground. At these weed farmers markets, you are seeing bankers and judges, attorneys, white-collar professionals, C-suite individuals, tenured UVA professors, doctors, the deacons of the church. That's who's going to these. I need folks to understand that's what's happening here. Now, what happened in this particular circumstance is A, Louisa County wanted to make an example out of the owner of higher education. B, they said we warned her. Esquire Harding, her defense attorney, makes the statement, you warned her and nothing happened to her? Right. Does that cause confusion?
He stated that in the previous raid in 2022, they sent odd signals, quote unquote, when no charges were initially fired, thus leaving Morris allegedly operating under the assumption she was not breaking the law.
I'd say that's an odd signal. I would say that is an odd signal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's set up your police cruiser on Interstate 64 and shoot radar as people are going 80 miles an hour by you on a Monday, 82 miles an hour on you on a Tuesday, 83 miles an hour by you on a Wednesday, 85 miles an hour by you on a Thursday, and then on a Friday you choose to give them a speeding ticket for going 77. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot radar, and if you're speeding by me on a Monday and you're going 81, and on a Tuesday and an 82, and on a Wednesday and an 83, on Friday I'm going to pop you when you're going 77. That's confusion. One of the reasons I like sports is because these are the rules. The rules don't change.
Yeah.
You have rules on how you play the game. And you play the game within those rules. That's why I like David Silver, the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, the NBA. He's talking about changing the time of length for an NBA game from 4 12-minute quarters, 48 minutes, to 4 10-minute quarters, 40 minutes. And I'm like, dude, you are changing the rules of the game. That means all NBA records are going to be significantly impacted if you take 8 minutes of live action away from every contest. How's anyone ever going to break a scoring record? Is it LeBron James with the scoring record, I believe? How's anyone going to break a scoring record when you change the rules? That's why we like sports. We have rules. We want that with the new zoning ordinance, with development in the city of Charlottesville. They don't want the rules to change. Year to year, the Gillikin gang's got this rule changing. They're bullying these people on multifamily. Build more housing, yada, yada. I'm about to show you some data from the Virginia Association of Realtors that we have a 7.5% vacancy rate in the city of Charlottesville when it comes to multifamily housing. A vacancy rate that's higher than what, Judah? Winchester? A vacancy rate that's higher what, Judah? Harrisonburg, Blacksburg, the 757 area? Some parts of northern Virginia? And here you got these folks jibber-jabbering on Blue Sky. Give them an afterthought social media platform. Blue Sky, we got to build more housing. What the hell are you talking about? We're going to show them the data. The data don't lie. First, the first topic at hand. 15 months in the slammer. Esquire Harding, watching the program, says she's going to do 9.5 when it's all said and done for pushing weed and psychedelic mushrooms in a storage shed. The thing that was most damning for me out of all this, first, props to Harding for getting it to 15 months, 9.5 on time served and good behavior.
Yeah.
The thing that was most obscene to me about this, and he straight up highlighted this, was $150,000 and nearly $150,000 that was the word utilized in there confiscated? No, it was voluntarily given as part of the agreement. Read the language if you could on the $140,000. This was money that she had earned from her business that she had built from scratch. And they're giving it to the Louisa County Sheriff's Department.
It could have been more.
Read it verbatim from there.
Agreed to forfeit a total of $432,800, and the Commonwealth moved to non-suit the forfeiture proceeding against a property related to the case. And eventually, let's see.
It's at the bottom of the story. Goodness gracious, yeah, great balls of fire. I'll read it here. Patience, not one of my virtues, as you know, and as certainly the viewers and listeners are getting to know.
$144,793.96 was also voluntarily forfeited from Morris to Lieutenant Martin Clay Hart, Jr. of the Louisa County Sheriff's Office, pursuant to the previous plea agreement.
This is what Harding says on the record. Quote, Miss Morris is a successful businesswoman who has grown a completely legitimate and popular brand in her higher education stores throughout Central Virginia. Her personal investments outside of higher education are her business, and that's between her and the IRS. But I am adamant that the amount seized and forfeited to Louisa County was not the direct proceeds of illicit activity and is a reflection of her acceptance of responsibility for her unrelated actions and willingness to pay her debt to society. I hope Louisa makes good use of Miss Morris's hard-earned funds and has a degree of humility, and that they leveraged a woman's liberty as a means of getting money with no evidence that it came from anything other than legitimate efforts. God darn, that's effing good, Elliot. I'll read it again. This is from Elliot Harding. I hope Louisa makes good use of Mrs. Morris's hard-earned funds and has a degree of humility, and that they leveraged a woman's liberty as a means of getting money with no evidence it came from any other legitimate efforts. Anything other than legitimate efforts. I mean, he's basically saying in some ways, and I'm going to read between the lines here, he's basically saying in some ways that they have Miss Morris by the
short and
curlies, and they're extorting some money out of her because she's facing a lot of time in jail, and they have an opportunity to take it. Mm-hmm. That's what he's saying right there.
Yeah.
Imagine being, it's 2025, and in a courtroom, someone is rolling out some weed and some mushrooms and touting it as the biggest drug bust in Louisa County history.
I mean, it is.
Is it? Let's tout some fentanyl and some heroin. Maybe you want to tout some cocaine. Let's not tout stuff that grows on cow poo. And some people are going to disagree with me on that. And others are going to be shaking their head right now saying, amen, Jerry. Elliot Harding has this comment. Heaven forbid the Lock-in Festival takes place in Louisa. The whole county would be shut down. Bingo. Lock-in Festival takes place in Nelson County. Or did.
Imagine the news where Nelson County is building the biggest prison for all the lock-in people that they arrest.
I mean, this is insanity.
Jobs for everyone. It is.
It is viewer. I want a disagreement from a viewer and listener on this topic, and the main disagreement opportunity that you could present for me on this is that in 2022 she was warned by the authorities not to do this. Said, do not do this. And then my response would be the response that Harding gave. That warning came with no punishment, which created a sense that this was allowed.
Yeah, we also see the laxity in police departments taking on any of this stuff around the country, and the fact that we currently have legislature being attempted to pass in Virginia.
The real travesty, before we get to the next topic, the real criminality here, maybe criminality is not the right word, the true malpractice throughout all this is the malpractice associated with political dysfunctionality in Richmond. Mm-hmm. That's the true malpractice.
Yeah.
You have some suits in Richmond that are leveraging weed to get what they want in other regards. And that political malpractice, that political dysfunctionality has created a gray market that is confusing a lot of people. And someone who operated aggressively within the gray market, perhaps pushing the boundaries of the gray market, has now been turned into the 2025 version of Cannabis Jesus Christ, nailed to a cross and martyred. Cannabis Jesus Christ. It's Cannabis Jesus Christ. I'm not saying Christianity Jesus Christ.
Go that far.
What? 160-year initial sentence? 22-year sentence for a 51-year-old woman pushing some weed?
Mm-hmm. Elliot Harding addresses that very eloquently at the end of the article when he says, if anything, I hope this case sends a message to our legislators that their unwillingness to finish the job they started when it comes to the legalization of marijuana has resulted and will continue to result in well-meaning people getting caught in the crosshairs of confusion.
Yeah.
We need a market that is well-defined.
100%. We need rules.
Yeah.
Rules to play the game. Rules in development in the city of Charlottesville, rules in sports, rules in cannabis, rules to play the game. Lisa Costello. Now we'll get to the next topic here. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Lisa Costello had some comments that I missed. Where do they go? Oh, she says, there are people shooting and killing each other in our streets, the homeless sleeping on our frozen ground, missing people from our community, domestic violence and sexual assault, and we are focusing on resources pursuing adults who choose to use marijuana. And she highlights that alcohol does much more damage than marijuana does, yet the state sponsors ABC stores where the state gets their profits. The state sells hard liquor and profits off the misery of alcoholism, then wants to jail this lady for slinging some weed.
Profits is the key word because they certainly got some profits off of her as well.
This comment comes from someone who wants some anonymity. This is not Deep Throat. Oh, that's on the vacancy issue. I'll get to that in a matter of moments. This one came in yesterday that really got me thinking in relation to Danville and the 850 Goodyear factory jobs that were cut in Danville. We talked about that yesterday. This individual says, one thing that can help replace those jobs is the Caesars Casino opening in Danville. But this particular individual has troubles with where the casinos are opening. He says they're not opening in affluent or resort destination areas. Instead, they're opening next to a military base in Virginia Beach, in Danville, and in Abington. Danville and Abington, he highlights, are in southwestern Virginia, where the poverty rate is high, where the opium pandemic is at its peak. And casinos are not dumb, he says. They are capitalizing on the vulnerable by opening up in areas of Virginia where people can become gambling addicts.
I mean, we kind of touched on that before when we were talking about the one-armed bandits and whether or not they belonged in Central Virginia.
One-armed bandits?
Yeah, the slot machines and the skill game machines.
Okay, I think when I appreciate the metaphorical language as much as anyone, and I think that one-armed bandit is a fantastic reference. But when you utilize the one-armed bandit, I think you have to do some kind of reference to slot machine, so people don't think you're thinking of the guy from The Fugitive.
Wow,
remember The Fugitive?
That's a callback.
There's a one-armed
man.
He's a one-armed man in The Fugitive. Are you the Harrison Ford? You can pull off Harrison Ford. I can see that. Conan Owen. He owns the Sir Speedy franchise. He's been really making the program better of late. I sincerely mean that. Ignorance of consequences or the law outlining them is no excuse. You want to excuse cannabis, okay, but shrooms can really mess someone up. She got in trouble for the psychedelic mushrooms. We all know that. She got in trouble for the boomers. We all know that. All right. Next headline. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Do you have the data? Let's put the data on screen. We got supervisors and counselors watching us over here, folks. Put the data on screen for the Virginia Association of Realtors. You got it on screen?
Yeah.
Look at the screen. Everyone, look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Can they read this easily, Judah, by looking at the screen?
Depends on what they're watching this on. I would say that they can probably read the individual titles. I don't know if they can read the numbers underneath.
Okay. Look at the screen. Multifamily housing. The person who's put this on my radar of late is Deep Throat, number one in the family. He's put this on my radar. And then the more that this has been positioned on my radar by Deep Throat, number one in the family, the more I'm like, what the hell is going on in our community? We have a vacancy rate in the Charlottesville metro area, and you look in the top left there, and you can find these numbers in the Virginia Association of Realtors. Easily find these numbers. 7.5% vacancy rate in multifamily in the Charlottesville MSA. 7.5%, ladies and gentlemen. That's a vacancy rate that is higher than Harrisonburg, a vacancy rate that's higher than the Hampton Roads area, than Winchester, than Blacksburg, and a portion of Northern Virginia. We're on the higher end of vacancy rates in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And yet we have the Gilligan gang in livable CVille trying to bully elected officials and trying to tar and feather taxpayers who ask that infrastructure be prioritized ahead of housing. And then the Gilligan gang in livable CVille says things like, oh, you're nothing but a NIMBY, not in my backyard, or take it even further and start using the R word. You know what the R word is?
Oh, yeah. I think I know what that one is.
What's the R word?
That's the. I've got to say it's the fallback for weak arguments.
What's the R word?
Racist.
Yeah. The reality is this. Here's the reality. The vacancy rate is 7.5%. And here's the reality. We interviewed about a week and a half ago, it might have even been, it was 8 days ago, Mitch Corti, the Executive Vice President of Development for Subtext, a national development company that's building 1,300 beds on Stadium Road. They secured a land lease that he put somewhere between 90 and 100 years, a land lease with the Canton Companies, a locally owned operation. In fact, the Canton Companies is the one that's doing the Old Ivy Road Bridge project, where it's going to close down a portion of Old Ivy Road for a chunk of time, like a year and change. And Subtext is bringing 1,300 plus beds in the next couple years to Stadium Road. And this is happening at the exact same time that Greystar is bringing more than 500 apartments to Old Ivy Road. And this is happening at the exact same time that UVA is going to require second years to live on grounds. So all at the same time, we're going to have 1,300 student apartments, 1,300 plus student beds, 400 and some apartments built by Scott Stadium, 500 plus apartments built next to St. Anne's Belfield, where UVA is expanding in that direction westward, and second years being required to live on grounds by the University of Virginia. And currently the vacancy rate is 7.5%, according to the Virginia Association of Realtors, which is a greater vacancy rate than the Hampton Roads area, Harrisonburg, Winchester, and Blacksburg, and parts of Northern Virginia. Folks, the math ain't mathin'.
It would be interesting to see that number broken down by what, like house price or multifamily dwelling cost?
It would be interesting to break it down by this type of multifamily class or subclass. I would like to see it as Section 8, workforce housing, student housing, and luxury housing. I want to see that breakdown. Would love that breakdown from number one in the family, Deep Throat. Mm-hmm. Give me that breakdown, multifamily, by student housing, Section 8, workforce housing, and luxury.
Yeah.
Because then we're really going to know which one's soft. And we're betting that it's luxury. We're betting it's luxury.
No doubt.
And I would not be surprised if it starts becoming student housing that gets soft, with second years being pulled out of the tenant ecosystem and being required to live on grounds. The Section 8 and workforce housing is the type of housing that I think has significant tailwinds behind, because people just can't afford to live here.
Yeah.
You give me something that's a condo, an apartment that you're renting for like $900 a bedroom, or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo that's renting for $2,800 a month. I own one of those. Those rent all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. What are you talking? That's like $900 and change a bedroom. Mm-hmm. A 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Those have no problem renting.
Yeah.
And the people that are screaming out there, perfection is the enemy of productivity. Perfection is the enemy of production. Yeah, you keep building luxury apartments and let's see what happens to your business model. And the insane thing, old Jeff Levine, the Big Apple developer who's got an estate in North Garden, who built the luxury apartments where Blue Moon Diner is, revitalized the Blue Moon Diner on West Main. He's trying to build, 18 stories? Where the Violent Crown movie theater is in his 3rd or 4th presentation with BAR, the Board of Architectural Review in the city, and he wants to build hundreds of apartments on the downtown mall. Jesus, what is going on here? It's like you just need to grab these people and shake them.
Yeah.
And say, wake up. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. This is from John Blair, number 1 in the family. Number 2 in the family, excuse me. It's good to see you yesterday, John. I've always wondered, he says, why elected officials in Charlottesville and Almora don't compare their localities to Blacksburg and Montgomery, as well as Harrisonburg and Rockingham. Those are the comparable communities, and you highlight their local governments have been more functional and had better outcomes for over a decade than Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Thank you for highlighting this. There is a reason that those places are much more functional and performing at a higher level than Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Thank you for watching, John Blair. I want this community I want the 300,000 people in Central Virginia. I want the roughly 50,000 people in the city of Charlottesville. I want the population of Albemarle County. What is it? 6th largest county in Virginia. I want the 116,000 people in Albemarle County. I want everyone that listens to this program to embody the mindset that I'm about to offer. If anyone says to you, we got to build more housing in this community and we prioritize housing over infrastructure, you push back on them right now. Push back on them. 500 plus apartments on Old Ivy Road being built at the same time. 1,300 beds are being built at Scott Stadium. At the same time, second years are required to live on grounds. At the same time, the vacancy rate is 7.5%. At the same time, let's highlight this. How about this? Ridge at North Point, 279-unit new luxury rental project. The Ridge at North Point, Judah. 135 of those are empty. 135 of them. How about this one? The Elysian? What the hell is that? 120 units available at Stonefield, within walking distance of bars and grocery stores and restaurants and on a bus line. 26 units available at Dairy Central and Dairy Market. Rivanna Terrace, 20% vacant. This comes in from someone who's asking for anonymity. When you discuss the vacancy issue, you might mention that Livable CVille is still pushing an expansion of the development area with coded language, quote, establish a sizable transition area to create more density in the urban ring. This person who sent me a DM also adds, I think many people might not have signed on to that if they said, quote, establish a sizable expansion of development areas instead of transition area. Expansion of development areas has always been wildly unpopular anytime a poll has been done.
I believe he's talking about the Albemarle County Affordable Housing Advocacy Letter.
And I saw that advocacy letter with the Gillikin gang. They're using wordsmithing language. This is called perception management. Establish a sizable transition area to create more density in the urban ring. Transition area instead of expanding the development area. That's called wordsmithing. Are you reading it too?
I'm looking at the thing right now.
This is literally called wordsmithing. They're wordsmithing, expand the development area by calling it establish a sizable transition area. That's effing word salad. Push back on these people and say enough already. Chad Wood says, wow, this is all very telling. Bill McChesney highlights that the one-armed man was Richard Kimball. The fugitive.
That does ring a bell.
Wasn't Richard Kimball Harrison Ford?
Yeah, it does ring a bell.
Richard Kimball was Harrison Ford, not the one-armed man. That's Dr. Richard Kimball was Harrison Ford. Oh, he says David Jansen played Richard Kimball in the series. Dr. Richard Kimball. I got to watch The Fugitive. I'm watching Michael Clayton currently. I stayed up till like 1 in the morning last night watching Michael Clayton. What movie did I watch before that, sweetheart? I watched something before that. What was the George Clooney? The Ides of March. Had a fantastic cast. Was on a short list for an Oscar. The Ides of March. That was also very good. Neil Williamson shares a link. He calls it lasagna. And Lonnie Murray gives the laugh emoji to the link shared. I don't think he's laughing at the link. He just appreciates that Neil likes to highlight, use pop culture in his commentary. Just push back on it. And the crazy, this is the borderline most nauseous thing that I'm seeing. Are you ready for this? Viewers and listeners, sit back for this. I really hope you're hearing this one, Deep Throat, and the elected officials that are watching the program. Are you ready for this? The Livable CVille Gillikin gang were the people that ramrodded the new zoning ordinance through in the iteration we have today. And then when it first materialized, they were standing at the peak of Childs Mountain and Carter's Mountain, pounding their chest and screaming like Braveheart, proudly championing what they had done, creating the most radical zoning ordinance maybe in all of America, certainly the Commonwealth. And this pounding your chest like Mel Gibson and Braveheart, like aim small, miss small, Mel Gibson and the Patriot. Screaming that, look at what we've done. It's for the betterment of the community. And not a single reality has materialized of affordability from that zoning ordinance. Nothing. If anything, all it has done is cost taxpayers money as residents are suing the city because of malpractice with that new zoning ordinance. Suing the city.
Yeah.
And the city ain't going to do anything with that zoning ordinance when there's an active lawsuit going on. It's done nothing. And those same people that championing the new zoning ordinance and saying, look at what we did, the most radical zoning ordinance, this is for the best of Charlottesville, and Dick has materialized. Those same people, Judah Wickower, are now trying to infiltrate Albemarle County and do the same thing to Albemarle. You see it.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing to Albemarle County. Trying to find a Looney Tune to run in the Jack Jewett district. Literally pursuing a Looney Tune to run in the Jack Jewett district. Enough already. Enough already. If you don't like it, then this ain't the community for you. Anything you want to add? Kristen Grimes and Carol Thorpe, welcome to the program. Multiple media outlets watching the show as we speak. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need, I don't know. It's nuts. Obviously, we need to do something to incentivize lower income housing, but I don't have the answer to how to do that.
Deep Throat says this: the next humiliation, his words, not mine, for the folks at the mental midgets at Livable CVille will be when the appellate courts in Virginia consider Alexandria, Arlington, and Charlottesville zoning. They are all together and they were all struck down. Can somebody explain to me how the person making the decision, the judge making the decision in the Charlottesville lawsuit, lives in the city, whose partner, whose wife was a housing activist, an advocate? Can you help me understand? Does that not speak of conflict of interest? When in Northern Virginia, in the same circumstances, not one, but a few judges recused themselves and said, we shouldn't be offering our opinion on this, our judgment on this?
Yeah, I believe it was 4 judges.
Was it 4?
I think it was 4.
Can you explain how that isn't? I mean,
they had to get a retired judge to come in.
Right. Because they're all like, dude, we own our number one item in our retirement portfolio is our homes, and it would dramatically uptick in value or be impacted by whatever I'm making a judgment on.
Yeah, even if they're not using it as a means of expanding their portfolios, there's still the appearance of impropriety.
That's like Greg Maddox or Tom Glavine or John Smoltz or Roger Clemens or Pedro Martinez or Andy Pettit being the ones that called the balls and strikes on the pitches they threw. Roger the Rocket Clemens and Nolan Ryan and Tom Glavine and John Smoltz and Andy Pettit should not be the ones that determine the balls and strikes on the pitches they throw from the mound. Jesus. Next, last topic on the Thursday edition of the show. I'm a little fired up today. I got the spirit and the chutzpah is back. This was a good show. A quote from yesterday really struck with me that I read. Big fan of quotes. I got a notepad on my phone that keeps track of quotes or commentary that I find compelling or that I want to remember. And one of them is this one came to mind yesterday. There's a couple people in my life before I closed the program, and I think I mentioned that the Walgreens on Proffit Road in Route 29 is closing, and we're clearly seeing the demise of big box retail in the Charlottesville area. That could be a topic we put on the shelf for tomorrow because I'm about an hour in and I have a busy afternoon. But this quote is something that I saw or I read somewhere yesterday. If you as a human being go about your life, and you go about your life with the intention, you have intentionality of this, of liking more people. You go about your everyday life and you say, hey, Chris, and hey, John, and hi, Caroline, and hi, Lauren, and hi, Kate, how's it going? You go out of your way to greet people in a positive way. I try to do this. You see it. My wife sees it. And you go out of your way and you try to greet people with intentionality of saying, how are you doing? Those are the type of people that end up becoming more likable. Being likable in life is within your control. You can go out and be likable. And that intentionality, can you go to the Market Street camera and look at this guy? Okay, he's going away. He was doing a seance on the tree outside of our studio.
A seance?
My point is this, as we close here. The folks that I've seen that have a lot of friends, popular, someone that I know recently, I see on social media. Social media and Facebook is the new obituaries. You'll randomly go on your news feed and people will be paying homage to someone who passed away. Someone who passed away recently that comments on this show all the time is Kevin Higgins.
Yeah.
I'd never met Kevin Higgins in my life, but Kevin Higgins routinely watched and listened to our show to the point where I felt like I knew Kevin Higgins. And he, this past weekend, and I was told by a number of viewers and listeners about this over the weekend. And I appreciate the viewers and listeners who are watching now who reached out to us to let us know that someone like Kevin Higgins had passed away.
Yeah.
We dubbed him the mayor of Greenwood, a father of two, and a guy that you see on social media was beloved. He embodied that. He went out of his way to say hi to people, to greet people, to make human connections to people. He routinely would say, hey, Jerry, hey, Judah, how's it going? And he did it in human. He did it digitally. He did it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And you saw a guy that was loved. He was liked. He was popular. There's another person that passed that I saw this morning. Someone that previously helped our firm with our bookkeeping and accounting. And when I saw on social media that Kristen Hoberg had passed away from complications with a stroke, I was taken aback. I was like flabbergasted. And she was another one of those people that went out of their way to say hello to you, to greet you, to ask you what was going on with your life. And when I was reading the funeral, the commentary that the family puts together online, I don't know what you would call that now. What is it? An honorary, a paying to their legacy? You know what I'm talking about. It's the obituary, the digital obituary.
Yeah.
In the digital obituary for Kristen, who had passed away, Kristen Hoberg. They said when she was battling complications associated with a stroke before she passed away, she had like dozens of friends that would go to her hospital bed. And they would all introduce themselves as, I'm Kristen's best friend, so-and-so. I'm Kristen's best friend, so-and-so. And then they were all there, and they all realized in some ways that they saw Kristen as their best friend.
Yeah.
Think about that as what you want on your tombstone, as your legacy. When you have 3 or 4 dozen people go to your hospital bed while you're fighting for your life, and those 3 or 4 dozen people all see you on the hospital bed as their best friend, and they didn't know of the other people who also saw you as their best friend.
Yeah.
In a very short period of time, 2 people passed, and Kevin Higgins and Kristen Hoberg, that all embodied this same quality of just being likable people and having an abundance of friends in their lives. Yeah. And when it's all said and done, I'll close with this. It's not the commas in the bank account or the toys or the bricks, the assets. It's the friends that determine your legacy.
Yeah, definitely.
Kevin Higgins and Kristen Hoberg, may you rest in peace. The Thursday edition of the I Love CVille Show. For Judah Wickower, I'm Jerry Miller.